What is up, guys? Today I'm going to show you how to disassemble and reassemble the Knafs lander. This is my design, and I tried to design it in a way that would be super easy to tear the thing down and then put it back together. Let's dive into it. You're going to need a couple of things today. First of all, you're going to need a Torx screwdriver. So first things first, we're gonna start with a T6 Torx screw. And what we're gonna do is we're going to pull the scale screws off. And there's two types of screws here. So the ones I just pulled off are scale screws, and those hold the scales right in place. And you can know that they're a scale screw. Number one, they're a T6, that's the size. And then the other part of it is the heads are flat on top and on the sides. The next one are clip screws, and this is actually the clip insert. So these ones hold either the clip or the clip insert in place. And you can tell which ones these are. They actually have a bit of a tapered head. They're a T6. And so they kind of taper like this. They're different than the scale screws. So if you're like, Ben, I'm like trying to put this thing together, check which one is which. So once you've got those four screws off, your scale just pops right off. So that's one of the cool things about the lander is you can actually swap the scales super easy. So like if you got, I don't know, maybe a natural color that you want to throw on there, you can drop it on there. It's super easy. Throw those four screws back on and rock and roll. But that's not what we're doing today. We are going deep diving. So we've got the scale off. Now we're on the inside. And once you're on the inside, you've got your frame screws. Now these ones have a rounded head. They're also a T6. And just a little quick trick to not strip screws, give it a little bit of pressure, a lot of push there when you're disassembling, and that will help not strip the screws out. 'Cause ain't nobody got time for stripped screws. So you'll pull those off. And then I'm actually gonna do the backside here as well. And I like to keep all my screws organized, so what I'm using here on the table is called a tool burrito. It's actually a product that we built with Knafs. So if you like to work on pocket knives, highly recommend it. One thing that you gotta know about pocket knives is there's always a front or presentation side. So it typically is this direction, and then there's the back. So we're gonna be working on the back now. I'm gonna close it just for safety's sake. And I'm going to pull these two frame screws off the back. Boom and boom. So now that you've got all of the scale screws, all of the frame screws, and all of the clip screws off, you have one last screw, and that is the pivot screw. And this one is actually a T8, so you're gonna need a different bit. You'll basically just come in, hit that, and once you pull the pivot, the whole knife is gonna basically fall apart in your hand, just like what happened there. That pivot is what holds all the pieces together. Now, there's a couple parts that you need to be aware of. You've got barrel spacers that basically are the separation between the two liners. You've got a stop pin. The stop pin makes sure that the blade doesn't rotate too far. And then on the inside, you also have these ceramic bearings. I'm just gonna tear it down all the way. Sometimes the barrel spacers, they'll kind of get stuck there. And then you got the pivot right there. So here's my front liner. And at this point, we need to reassemble. When you're reassembling, it's not hard, but I'm gonna encourage you to do it this way. So you're gonna grab the front liner. And you'll notice on this front liner, we did a little trick, and you're gonna love what we did here. Basically, we put a flat on the pivot, and we put a flat on the barrel spacers. And that same flat is on this liner. So when you go to torque these down, they're not gonna sit there and free spin because we stuck that flat on there. So first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna pull out the barrel spacer, and you've gotta line up the flat with the liner. Boom, just like that. And then we're gonna start dropping screws back in. And at this point, we gotta put in a PSA. So I'm gonna recommend you use blue Loctite on your screws. We're gonna look at two different types. This one is like a glue stick, like you would have had in elementary school. These are super easy to use. You just throw a little bit on there, or you can also get these little guys, and we sell these on knafs.com. Basically just take a little drop of this, and you're just gonna apply one quick dab. Can I call it a dab? Is that allowed in 2022? And then what you're gonna do, we're gonna take that barrel spacer with the flat, we're gonna stick it on there, and now that our screws are Loctited, we are going to put it back in, just like that. And the reason we're gonna start on this side is because of those flats on the screws and on the liner, because then things won't come undone as we do them. One quick trick when you're putting screws back in. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. However, start with lefty-loosey because you're going to find the end of the thread. You don't want to cross thread. So what you do is you go lefty-loosey till you feel a little click, and then you're gonna go righty-tighty. And you don't have to like over crank any of these screws. Just screw tight is good. You don't need to get ferocious on it. Boom, so there you have it. You've got your barrel spacers back on. At this point, I'm going to take my pivot, and it's also got a flat, so we're going to run it through the front of the knife, spin it till it gets in the right place, and you're ready to rock there. Now, at this point, it's gonna be easiest to just set it down. You're gonna take your stop pin, drop it in there, just like that. And now we're gonna put the blade in place. You're going to take the ceramic bearing, drop it on top of the pivot, and then you're gonna take your blade and you'll drop him right on there. And this is my favorite way to do it because it kind of keeps your fingers out of the road of the blade. At this point, you need another ceramic bearing, and you are on to the lock side of the liner lock side. So now that you have the liner side with the lock on it, you're going to take it this way and you're going to drop it right on there. A lot of times the stop pin has a tendency to be the thing that's not lining up. So we got that stop pin in place, and then we're gonna put those frame screws back on. And I'm just holding it with my left hand like this, taking these guys with my right, and we'll screw him back in, just like that. Boom. If you do your pivot first, then you don't have to squeeze it so much. Probably should have done that first. I'm gonna throw my pivot in there, just tighten it down a bit. We'll come back and readjust that in just a minute. I'll get this second frame screw in there. Okay, second frame screw is in. And at this point, I'm never gonna recommend this, but your knife is basically functioning again. Essentially, you have put the frame back together. The knife is ready just to accept those scales again. So it doesn't matter at this point which scale you put on first. I'm gonna put the front one on. Boom, just like that. We'll take our scale screws and we'll drop them in there. Boom, and boom. And then we'll put the clip screws in, we'll put the other scale on, and you will have a functioning knife in no time. Now, why would you want to disassemble? So if you're out working in the sand or whatever, and you're like, my knife is totally gritty, that's a great opportunity to disassemble the thing, tear it down, and make sure that it's all clean. So if you have torn it down and you want to clean it out, like you can use isopropyl rubbing alcohol on it. You can even wash it with water, warm water and soap. Just make sure you dry all the parts when you're done. Honestly, I don't know that most people will ever need to disassemble, but I'm the kind of guy that I get a new knife and the first thing I do is I tear the thing down. Some manufacturers hate that. Here at Knafs, we encourage you to get to know your tool. If you lose a part, you can go to knafs.com/parts, and there are replacement parts right there. Before we're done here, I just want to check the blade centering. When you reassemble, your blade centering is the indicator that you did a good job on it. And so I look at it and it's pretty dang close, but if it's not close, you'll come in and you'll readjust your pivot, kind of work the pivot a little bit, make sure that you haven't over tightened. If you've over tightened, which I just did, just crank it back just a hair. And this is just one of those like, feel it till you like where it is sort of things. So there you go. That is the Lander disassembly video. If you're looking for blue Loctite, we sell it on knafs.com. If you are looking for pivot lube, we sell that on knafs.com as well. And if you are stoked on pocket knives and you're just like, Ben, I want to learn more about pocket knives, you can buy our sweet, sweet poster. See me pitch my products. Look at this, look at this. We sell all sorts of knife stuff on knafs.com. So if you like pocket knives, definitely subscribe to our channel. I'm glad you watched to the end here. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments, or if you are struggling, you can go to knafs.com/Houston, as in Houston, we have a problem, knafs.com/Houston. Thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.